Welcome to this Copilot Cafe session on Prompt Like a Pro. If this is the only AI session that you do, then it's going to be the most valuable because if you can't speak to AI, you can't speak to Copilot, then you're not going to get the results that you really want. We are our biggest limitation. And what do I mean by that? Well, when it comes to Copilot, I think of it as my new personal genius, my clever best friend at work with multiple PhDs and speaks several languages. The key difference between Copilot and my actual colleagues is that Copilot's got access to way more information. He doesn't judge me and it doesn't get bored of me asking the same questions over and over again. The challenge is that we all don't understand necessarily what the art of the possible is. It's really hard to understand what we can do when this is new technology for us. There's no playbook for this era of AI. And we didn't all wake up this morning necessarily knowing how to prompt in the best way. So when you're first starting on this AI journey, then prompting, I suppose, gets better with practice and the more you understand what a good prompt looks like. So that's what we're going to spend this session doing. I need to learn new habits and behaviors to change 30 years of keyword searching and learn how to speak to Copilot and AI in a better way. Because we are no longer keyword searching, we are having conversations. As I said, Copilot is my new best friend at work and I'm not going to use keywords to speak to my new best friend in the same way as I wouldn't walk up to a colleague and just say PowerPoint. My colleague doesn't understand what I want, why I want it, how she should share that with me. I need to talk to it like I would a colleague. So I'm gonna say, I would like this PowerPoint for this session. Have you got a copy? I need it within this time frame. Can you send it to me on Teams? Whatever it may be. And that's how I need to speak to Copilot too. If you have not seen this Windows Key Plus H, this is an accessibility feature that is in Windows. And it's brilliant for Copilot because it means I can just dictate what I want to say. So if you're in an app that hasn't got a microphone, I think most of them have microphones now, but just have a conversation, say out loud what's in your head. Copilot will pick that up. And if you haven't got the microphone, you could just press that Windows key plus H. Great accessibility tip there for you. Now, the good news is to help you with your prompting, we do have a framework that helps you understand what are the key ingredients for a great prompt. And if you're in the UK, it's going to be easy to remember because it's GCSE. They're the four key things that you need to include into a prompt. So you need a goal. What is it that you want to achieve? You also need to give it some context. Why do you need to achieve that? Source of information. You can find some information that I'm looking for in this area. And then expectations. What do you want that to look like? I want it to be in a table, I want it to be in bullet points, whatever. So let me give you an example of that. So I am late for a meeting. Sadly, it does happen quite a lot. I asked Copilot to recap the meeting for me. And I want it to be recapped because I was late and I need to find out the overview of a project timeline. And I believe the source is somebody called Adele Vance. So did Adele propose any changes? And what I really want is you to kind of put that together for me, include a project timeline in a table with any of those changes. When I put all that prompt together, it's going to look something like this. Now, it might feel a little bit counterintuitive. This is supposed to save me time. Why have I now got to write longer sentences than I would normally do with keywords? And that's how people normally react. So when people first start prompting, they often try to keep as close to keyword searching as possible. So they have these kind of beginner prompts when really we're trying to get to this expert layer. So using that GCSE model, an expert prompt isn't really summarize the latest trends in cloud computing because is that really what I wanted? What I really want is I want to know the latest trends in cloud computing because I've got to put the Q2 strategy together. I need to brief the execs on Azure-based infrastructure. I want you to look at this Gartner report because if I give you the source, you've got less to predict. We'll come on to prediction in a minute. And I want you to keep it under 300 words, use bullet points, give me 2 trends to prioritize. So you get the idea. So GCSE. So if your prompt result isn't giving you everything you need, go back and just check to see if you gave it all the information it needed to give you the result. So I said prediction there. What do I mean by that? Well, this is artificial intelligence. Okay, it's artificial. It's not real intelligence. Copilot doesn't really know what's going on in your head, what you really mean. It predicts what it thinks you need. So I'll give you an example of this. Help me finalize the end of this sentence. So it's a beautiful day. Let's go to what would you say the next word is? Now, I can tell you when I deliver this session, most people will say beach and park, and then some people will say pub. So let's say you've said beach. It's a beautiful day. Let's go to the beach. That's great. But personally, I live 50 miles away from a beach. I don't spend all my lovely day sat in the car going to a beach. I'd rather be walking my dog, hiking somewhere. So I needed to tell Copilot what I liked doing, where I lived, lots more information. I would have got a lot better result because it just predicted where most people are going to, potentially say they would like to go. And if you said beach, predicted right. All right, so let me just show you some tips. And these are tips that have really helped me take my prompting to the next level. Tip number 1, and this is crucial, make sure you include crucial dates, times, subjects, names, sources, all the key information that is going to make sure that that prediction is close to what you need it to be. Ground Copilot in the right data. So if you've got a URL that you want it to go to, you want it to look at a file, a chat, a Teams meeting, whatever it may be, give it multiple sources if possible, because that's going to reduce down the amount of prediction it needs to do, and you're going to get some really accurate results. Use common action words like summarize or categorize. Give it an example of what you want the format to look like if you've got one. And then ask yourself, if I was given all this information from a colleague, would I have all the information I need to actually carry out the task? And if the answer is no, then you might need to think about adding more to your prompt. And then think about the style that you're trying to create. Give it more guidance on format and style. We seem to be quite rigid when we start prompting. I really like it in a bulleted list. Actually, I'd like this in a table with headers. I'd like my list to be numbered. I'd like checkboxes, whatever it may be. But think about that style and guidance. And then finally here, ask for one, more than one version of what you're after. So if I want, I don't know, give me 5 ideas on how I can, or 5 ideas for great prompts that will help me with personal productivity. I'm not going to ask for one idea. I'm going to ask for 5. I'm going to ask for 10. So it'll give me multiple predictions, and then I can choose what I like, or I can say I like number 1 and I like number 3, combine those, that kind of thing. So ask it to predict more than one thing. So other types of prompting that you might do, and how might you use Copilot? So thinking about just putting this session together, I might have gone to Copilot and asked it to initially just brainstorm some ideas with me. I want to do a session on prompting. How can I help this really resonate? What should I include? What should I leave out? So I'm asking Copilot to work with me as a partner to brainstorm those ideas. I might have a meeting with a couple of people to help discuss what should go into this session. And I want to make sure that meeting is really effective. So some of my prompting might be around, okay, I've got a 45-minute session. This is my goal. Help me build an agenda. What kind of questions should I be asking? These are the people that are attending. So giving it lots of information just help me make sure that I'm going to have really effective meetings. And then storytelling assistants. I work for a tech company. I work with business users. So how do I translate what the techies are telling me to business people? Storytelling assistants really helps. And then things like gaining insights. So I do the session. I want to know what the sentiment was. I want to look at the survey data. I want to look at the charts, bring all that information together and just gain some real insights so that I can make the session better the next time. And then translating languages. If English isn't your first language and you want to talk to Copilot in your language, you can do that, and get it to translate your rest of your content in English if you need it. And then solving technical problems. There are so many times we interrupt a colleague, they lose their focus. Before you know it, we've got three people all searching for stuff that you were searching for initially. Actually, could you have asked Copilot first? So we need to create this kind of Copilot first kind of way of working, our habit. And if you think about prompting for technical problems, I'll ask Copilot to give me step-by-step guide. I want you to step me through everything I need to do to switch on a certain rule in Outlook, or tell me how I build this agent and give me some step-by-step instructions. So thinking about the different kinds of ways you're going to interact with Copilot and think about the different types of prompts that might lead you to. When I think about the content I'm creating, I need to think about who is the audience. That really will help Copilot format that content in a way that's going to resonate. So I will think about who the audience is, what the scene is, what the tone should be. So anything I want to leave out, are there any complex elements that should be considered? Is there emotion that I want to stir up by presenting whatever I've created, and just giving it the narrative? So if I was doing a keynote speech and it's for an audience of non-tech people and I want to explain generative AI, and I want them to feel like excited and inspired at the end of the session, I might ask Copilot to include all those elements and help me put together a script. So think about all the other elements that could go into your prompt. And this is especially important when it comes to things like creating images, because the more specific we can be about some of the key points in it, the more descriptive we are, the better that image is going to be. So on this image, I've asked for a number of things. I've asked for Labradors sitting on a lawn. I've asked for butterflies fluttering around. I've asked for sunbeams. I've asked for foliage. So it's very descriptive. So if you're trying to create an image, especially if you can and I know not everybody can do this, but if you can visualize what that looks like in your head and then try to, put all those elements down in the prompts, you're going to get a lot closer to the vision that you had. And then graph data. So what do I mean by graph data? So if you've got a full Copilot license, you can connect to your emails, your chats, your files, people you work with, meeting transcripts, and on and on and on. Basically, all your communications data across M365. So if I wanted to pull together some information on a project, I might say, okay, I want you to find information from Sarah. I want you to look at this folder. I want you to look at this SharePoint site. I want you to look at this update meeting we had, and then pull all those things together to give me a 360 view of where we are with this project. And I can do that by using what I call the magic / So that / opens up that graph data, which if I've got the full license, that's going to appear. If I've not, it won't. But the / will open it up, and then I can select multiple sources of information. All right, so we've gone through the basics. Let's now think about how we structure maybe larger prompts. So a lot of the smaller prompts we're using, personal productivity, but actually we start thinking about prompts for our business processes. They start getting a bit bigger. We start including things like workflows. So to structure our prompts, And Copilot does love a bit of structure. It's good to give it headings. And you see this is kind of following this GCSE formula again. I've given it a heading. This is the source of information. This is the purpose of the prompt. This is your narrative. And these are my expectations. And then I've given it a list of things to go through. Now, I'm not going to keep creating this all the time. This is a prompt that I'm going to save and adjust as I need. And if you're wondering how to get down to the next line, because if you press return, it sends the prompt. If you press shift and return, it goes down to the next line for you. So you can make it nicely structured like this. Now, there are often times where I'll ask Copilot to act as something. So I might want it to act as my brainstorming partner. I'm going to say, I've got a great idea. I want you to tell me what you like about it, what you don't like about it. And then I want you to give me some feedback, and we'll just keep continuing going back and forward. So we can have conversation, and I'm using it as a brainstorming partner, but this could be act as a marketing lead, act as the CFO, whatever you want it to act as. So let me just show you a little demo of that in action. Now, I work in the customer success unit in Microsoft UK, and I want to help drive adoption of Copilot within my team as well. So I'd like some ideas on how I could do that. So I've got this little demo. I've got to put this prompt in. So today I want you to act as my brainstorming partner. I would like to brainstorm an idea to drive new habits of using M365 in the customer success unit. We need to think outside the box. We need to create new behaviors to help bring AI into our daily workflow. So I've given it all the context it needs. I've told it what I want it to do. So it's just come back, it's double checking it's understood what my ask is. And now it's going to ask me to share my prompt. So I'll show my idea. So I'm going to say, I want to share a daily prompt into our Teams chat to help them practice their prompting skills. So it's going to tell me what it likes the lower barrier to entry, it likes it's habit forming and scalable. And then it's telling me how I could improve it. So maybe vary the format, create a feedback loop, tie it to real work. All makes sense. So now it's Copilot's turn, and Copilot's got an idea about maybe do some Copilot shadowing week, where we ask everybody in the team to pick a task that they would normally do manually, and then try it with Copilot, come back at the end of the week and say what they tried, what worked, what didn't, what they learned. So really, really simple. We could go back and forward doing this all the time. And I love that idea. So this is what we start calling a mega prompt. And a mega prompt is just really a collection of other prompts. You'll see here I've got this mega prompt. It's just a kind of in the morning when I start work, I like to check out what the weather is, what the latest news is. I might ask questions like, is there any national holidays coming up? Because I work for various global accounts. And what's the view of my day to day? Did I miss anything from yesterday? So I've created this mega prompt, but I don't want to type this out every day. And actually, I want to schedule it. So I don't want to have to keep putting in tons of prompts even. This is why I've put them all into one big prompt. So let me just remind you how to save and schedule your prompts if you haven't come across this before. So I've run the prompt. It's giving me a list of things that I've got going on. And at the end of that prompt, I'm going to have a option to bookmark it. I have to wait for the prompt to finish. Then go back up to where I create the prompt. I can press bookmark. I can save that prompt. And also I can schedule it. So you see I've got a little schedule button there. I can decide I want this prompt to run every day. a certain time, for a week or a month. And there are limitations how many times you can run it. So I think the limitation is currently 20. But you see, I've now got that in my scheduled prompts. And I can just press rerun when that runs out as well. So why don't you give this a go? If you're following along with me today, have a look at some of these prompts. I'll pop them into the description for you so you can copy those and give them a go. All right. So a couple of things I just want to run through. So you might have heard these kind of terminologies. I just want to explain a little bit about what they are. So what is tree of thought prompting? Well, it's basically looking at creating a prompt that has multiple different decisions to be considered. So multiple perspectives. And you will give it a prompt like this one. So how can we improve the efficiency of solar panels? And then the prompt might be generate 3 initial ideas on how to prove it, evaluate each idea, expand on feasibility, combine details, next step. So we've given a problem to solve. We've said, I want you to go and review multiple different ways of fixing this problem and then come back to me. So we've kind of branched out, and I think that's where the tree of thought piece comes in. Then you've got chain of thought prompting. This model is kind of like a guided breakdown of smaller steps that reason over each step sequentially. The prompt here: explain how to make a cup of instant coffee. And a typical one-shot response is going to come back with a paragraph of how to do it. But a chain of thought prompt would look like: explain how to make a cup of coffee instantly. Let's think step by step. It would put each individual step into place for you. So I would normally just say step by step for a lot of things, especially if you're asking for like troubleshooting, and that'd be an example of kind of chain of thought prompting. Now, right at the beginning, I said we all lack a little bit of imagination. So to help with that, we actually have the prompts library. So if you go into the Copilot chat, you open up the prompts and keep scrolling down, you'll get to the prompts library. There's loads of prompts in here that are created by Microsoft to give you a bit of an idea of how to get started. So they're maybe not the polished prompt, but they'll give you some ideas, and then you can just build on those and make them your own. So if you go to Copilot chat, you see the starter prompts, click more, then click prompt library. You can bookmark and save your prompts here. And if you've got the full license as well, you can share prompts with your team. There is also prompt coach. So if you've got agent switched on, whether it's full license or not, you've got prompt coach. Great for if you want Copilot to check your prompt and make sure I'm not getting the best results. This is going to help you get better results. Also, I've tested this recently. It used to just give you the prompts. Now it actually gives you the prompts and it shows you what the results would be. So if you're struggling and you want some help coaching, getting better prompts, especially as you're starting off, then Prompt Coach is a great agent to use. So remember, this is a conversation. The first prompt just starts the scene or sets the scene. So you can keep going on, treat this like a conversation. So if I said to my colleague, I'd really like to do this session on Prompt Like a Pro, and they just said no, and that was it, I'm not going to finish the conversation. Then I'm going to say, well, why not? You carry on the conversation. So treat Copilot like your colleague. So what happens if it goes wrong? What happens if it doesn't predict what you were expecting? Remember, it doesn't actually know the facts. It wants to please you like you're the new boss in town. The more information you can give it, the more better sources you can give it, the better that prediction is going to be. So a couple of examples, and I would say I see less hallucinations now. I'm potentially, I can't remember the last time I had an hallucination. Or not me. I can't remember the last time Copilot had an hallucination. Um, and that is because one, the models got better. Two, it tends to ask you now. If it doesn't understand the detail, it'll ask clarifying questions and then get better results. The other thing is, I think the better your prompt writing is, the better your results. So a customer gave me 32 questions on Copilot, and I just put those 32 questions into the analyst agent, and I said, help me answer these. But if you don't know the answer, I want you to say you don't know the answer. If you don't understand the question, I want you to say you don't understand the question. So I was giving it that get out, like, I don't want you just making something up to make me happy. I want you just to say, yeah, that doesn't exist. That's absolutely fine. So think about, one, the models got better, but also two, think about your prompts. All right, so I'm just going to finish off with some do's and don'ts. So just a summary of what we've said already. Check out the default prompts first, make them your own. Give Copilot as much information as possible. And I know I've said GCSE, and I'd love it if the S was at the end. But one thing we have found is if you put the sources at the end of your prompt, you tend to get better results. I think, like, as humans, we tend to do something similar. So I'll give somebody a set of instructions and then I'll remind them of the most important pieces at the end so that that sticks in their mind. I don't know why that works the way it does, but that's one of my tips. Keep the conversation going, iterate, regenerate, don't, it won't get frustrated if you keep asking the same question. Share the exact source to get the most accurate results. The prediction has to be less. So if it's been told exactly where to go, don't forget the GCSE model. So if you don't get the results that you wanted, and not every prompt needs to be massive, that's not always the case. But if you're looking, especially from a research point of view, if you're looking to get some information and you're not getting the return you expect, then go and have a look at that GCSE. It likes positive instructions. So rather than tell it what not to do, if you can tell it, like, if then. So if this happens, then do this. It prefers those. All right. So what not to do? Don't think the Copilot thinks what you're thinking. We've not invented that yet. That might be next year, who knows, right? But it doesn't know what you're thinking. It only knows what you tell it and what it can predict. Don't be rude, inappropriate, or unethical. All right, so what do I mean by that? You are responsible for the content you create. You can't say, okay, well, Copilot wrote this or AI wrote this. This is your content. You are the human in this loop. So check the sources, make sure the sources are coming from reputable places where you're comfortable with. If there's anything, anything that's particularly sensitive, get that double checked, especially if you're making it public. Don't forget to verify the sources already mentioned. Don't change the topic without letting Copilot know. So if I was talking about the Olympics and then I started talking about the weather, Copilot might think I'm talking about the weather at the Olympics until it kind of gets through the conversation, realizes I've changed the conversation. So just press new chat, start a new conversation. It's only the same as we would with humans. If we suddenly change conversation and you were only half listening and you get a little bit confused, Copilot do the same. And try and stay away from jargon or slang. It's just going to help with the clarity. And then finally here, if you get stuck, ask Copilot to help. We wouldn't accept from our colleagues to kind of say, okay, I'm not doing something. You would ask why. Ask why if Copilot says it's not doing something, or if it's come up with something that is not what you expected, ask it why it came up with that information, and kind of just keep learning and experimenting. I think prompting is a journey that we all go on. We need to go for that beginner to that expert. As the models evolve, as the functionality evolves, our prompting will adapt. But I think that initial stage, it just takes a little bit of habit creation, a bit of behavior change, and eventually you'll get there and you'll get some great results. So I'm hoping you found this session useful. I'll probably do an update on this as we get better at prompting, as I get better at prompting. But I think if you can stick with these ideas that I've shared with you today, it's going to be a great start. So until next time, thanks for listening.